Hello, I am back with more of Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I'm sorry, I've been having some throat problems, so I'm sorry if I sound weird. Okay, starting where we left off. Chapter 1. The house stood on a slight rise just on the edge of the village. It stood on its own and looked out over a broad spread of West Country farmland. Not a remarkable house by any means. It was about 30 years old, squattish, squarish, made of brick, and had 4 windows set in the front of a size and proportion which more or less exactly failed to please the eye. I always love how Douglas Adams sets up his descriptions. They're so nice. Anyway, the only person for whom the house was in any way special was Arthur Dent, and that was only because it happened to be the one he lived in. He had lived in it for about 3 years, ever since he had moved out of London because it made him nervous and irritable. He's always nervous and irritable. He was about 30 as well, tall, dark-haired, and never quite at ease with himself. The thing that used to worry him most was the fact that people always used to ask him what he was looking so worried about. He worked in local radio, which he always used to tell his friends was a lot more interesting than they probably thought. It was, too. Most of his friends worked in advertising. That's funny. I never noticed that. For some reason, that sentence always skipped my mind, that he worked in radio. What does he do? All I can imagine him doing is, like, fetching coffee or something. I can't imagine Arthur Dent actually on the radio. Maybe he's the guy who sets up the schedule. I have no idea what radio people do. Oh my god. Well, not gonna mention his job again, so whatever. On Wednesday night it had rained very heavily. The lane was wet and muddy, but the Thursday morning sun was bright and clear as it shone on Arthur Dent's house for what was to be the last time. It hadn't properly registered yet with Arthur that the council wanted to knock it down and build a bypass instead. Yeah, with all that setup with the earth going kabloom. Remember the first time I was reading it, I was not expecting that. I had no idea what a bypass was either. At 8 o'clock on Thursday morning, Arthur didn't feel very good. He woke up blearily, got up, wandered blearily round his room, opened a window, saw a bulldozer, found his slippers, and stomped off to the bathroom to wash. Toothpaste on the brush. Scrub. Don't they clean their teeth? I always thought that was weird, that British people don't brush their teeth, they clean their teeth. Oh, whatever, I don't care. Shaving mirror pointed at the ceiling. He adjusted it. For a moment it reflected a second bulldozer through the bathroom window. Properly adjusted, it reflected Arthur Dent's bristles. 'Cause that's what we want to see. He shaved them off, washed, dried, and stomped off to the kitchen to find something pleasant to put in his mouth. I will not make a gay joke. It's taking all of my willpower. Okay. Kettle, plug, fridge, milk, coffee, yawn. The word bulldozer wandered through his mind for a moment in search of something to connect with. Your house is going down. The bulldozer outside the kitchen window was quite a big one. He stared at it. Yellow, he thought, and stomped off back to his bedroom to get dressed. Wonder if I should put on a British accent. It'd be fun. I don't know if I could keep it up, though. Well, I could. I actually know that I could keep it up. I can keep up a British accent for hours, but I'm just wondering whether it would get annoying. It's always the biggest problem with putting on accents. When do they cross the line between being funny and into being annoying? Whatever. Should I? Shouldn't I? I'm gonna go flip a coin. I have my coin. I'm gonna flip it. I dropped it. It's tails. I'm not going to put one on. Ha ha ha. Suck it, England. Okay. Passing the bathroom, he stopped to drink a large glass of water and another. He began to suspect that he was hungover. Why was he hungover? Had he been drinking the night before? He supposed that he must have been. He caught a glint in the shaving mirror. Yellow, he thought, and stomped on to the bedroom. Thinks very simply, doesn't he? I mean, does he talk about all his nouns like that? Walks up to an apple. Red. Walks up to Marvin. Blue. Ha. Made it funny. Anyway. Wasn't a very funny. Well, I lost my place. Oh. He stood and thought. The pub, he thought. Oh dear, the pub. He vaguely remembered being angry about something that seemed important. He'd been telling people about it at great length, he rather suspected. His clearest visual recollection was of glazed looks on other people's faces. It had been in the pipeline for months, only no one seemed to have known about it. Ridiculous. He took a swig of water. It would sort itself out, he decided. No one wanted a bypass. The council didn't have a leg to stand on. It would sort itself out. Yeah. No one wants a bypass. What do they do anyway? I have no idea. God, that interruption was pointless. I apologize for that one. I'm sorry. God, what a terrible hangover it had earned him, though. He looked at himself in the wardrobe mirror. He stuck out his tongue. Yellow, he thought. The word yellow wandered through his mind in search of something to connect with. Like a snake. A yellow snake. 15 seconds later, he was out of the house and lying in front of a big yellow bulldozer that was advancing up his garden path. Oh, I like this character. Mr. L. Prosser was, as they say, only human. In other words, he was a carbon-based bipedal life form descended from an ape. More specifically, he was 40, fat, and shabby, and worked for the local council. Curiously enough, though he didn't know it, he was also a direct male-line descendant of Genghis Khan, who was so much awesomer than a tall Hun. Though intervening generations and racial mixing had so juggled his genes that he had no discernible mongoloid characteristics, and the only vestiges left in Mr. L. Prosser of his mighty ancestry were a pronounced stoutness about the tongue and I cannot say that word. Predilection for little fur hats. He was by no means a great warrior. Warrior. Was a nervous, worried man. Today he was particularly nervous and worried because something had gone seriously wrong with his job, which was to see that Arthur Dent's house got cleared out of the way before the day was out. "Come off it, Mr. Dent," he said. "You can't win, you know. You can't lie in front of the bulldozer indefinitely." He tried to make his eyes blaze fiercely, but they just wouldn't do it. I imagined him with gray eyes. Muddy. Gray. Like dirt. Not dirt. Mud. They're muddy like mud. Oh, and then the next sentence. Arthur lay in the mud and squelched at him. Gross. I bet it made it sound like... Can't do mud squelch. It just sounds like a duck. A duck of evil. My friend thinks that ducks are evil and wants to take over the world. She's crazy. She's crazy. But enough about my crazy friend. "I'm game," he said. "We'll see who rusts first." "I'm afraid you're going to have to accept it," said Mr. Prosser, gripping his fur hat and rolling it round the top of his head. It's an awkward gesture. "This bypass has got to be built, and it's going to be built." Well, I tried to stutter. Suck. Okay, whatever. "First I've heard of it," said Arthur. "Why has it got to be built?" Mr. Prosser shook his finger at him for a bit, then stopped and put it away again. "But don't take it out in public, or they'll put you in the dock, and you won't a-come-a-back." Anyway. "What do you mean, why's it got to be built?" he said. "It's a bypass. You've got to build bypasses." Bypasses are devices that allow some people to dash from point A to point B very fast, while other people dash from point B to point A very fast. People living at point C, being a point directly in between, are often given to wonder what's so great about point A that so many people from point B are so keen to get there, and what's so great about point B that so many people from point A are so keen to get there. They are taking my suggestions. They're moving the people. Woo! It's so nice to be listened to. Anyway, they often wish that people would just once and for all work out where the hell they wanted to be. Oh, I can't get told for cussing. That's in the book. Mwahaha. Mr. Prosser wanted to be at point D. Point D wasn't anywhere in particular. It was just any convenient point a very long way away from points A, B, and C. He would have a nice little cottage at point D, with axes over the door, and spend a pleasant amount of time at Point E, which would be the nearest pub to Point D. His wife, of course, wanted climbing roses, but he wanted axes. He didn't know why. He just liked axes. He flushed hotly under the derisive grins of the bulldozer workers. You know, it was this book that made me start using points. From point A to point B to point D. Point D. I need to go back to kindergarten and learn my alphabet. He shifted his weight from foot to foot, but it was equally uncomfortable on each. Obviously, someone had been appallingly incompetent, and he hoped to God it wasn't him. See, I like this guy. He doesn't mean to do no one any harm. Mr. Prosser said, "You were quite entitled to make any suggestions or protests at the appropriate time, you know." "Appropriate time?" hooted Arthur. "Appropriate time? The first I knew about it was when a workman arrived at my home yesterday. I asked him if he'd come to clean the windows, and he said no, he'd come to demolish the house. He didn't tell me straight away, of course. Oh, no. First he wiped a couple of windows and charged me a $5. Then he told me." The thing I noticed about our author, he's always bitter about everything, even when there's nothing to be bitter about. "Oh, no, he charged me a $5. What is a $5? I have no idea. I know it's money, but I have no idea how much. "But, Mr. Dent, the plans have been available in the local planning office for the last 9 months. "Oh, yes. Well, as soon as I heard, I went straight round to see them, yesterday afternoon. You hadn't exactly gone out of your way to call attention to them, had you? I mean, like actually telling anybody or anything. But the plans were on display. On display? I eventually had to go down to the cellar to find them. That's the display department. With a flashlight." "Ah, well, the lights had probably gone. So had the stairs." "What did he do? Fall down a hole?" "Whatever. But look, you found the notice, didn't you?" "Yes," said Arthur. "Yes, I did. It was on display at the bottom of a locked filing cabinet stuck in a disused lavatory." Gross. "With a sign on the door saying, 'Beware of the leopard.'" That sounds like such an interesting story. Why does it say beware of the leopard? Oh, God. Okay. A cloud passed overhead. It cast a shadow over Arthur Dent as he lay propped up on his elbow in the cold mud. It cast a shadow over Arthur Dent's house. Mr. Prosser frowned at it. "It's not as if it's a particularly nice house," he said. "I'm sorry, but I happen to like it." "You like the bypass?" "Oh, shut up," said Arthur Dent. "Shut up and go away. Take your bloody bypass with you. You haven't got a leg to stand on, and you know it." Mr. Prosser's mouth opened and closed a couple of times, while his mind was, for a moment, filled with the inexplicable but terribly attractive visions of Arthur Dent's house being consumed with fire, and Arthur himself running and screaming from the blazing ruin with at least 3 hefty spears protruding from his back. Mr. Prosser was often bothered with visions like these, and they made him feel very nervous. He stuttered for a moment and then pulled himself together. "Mr. Dent," he said. "Hello?" "Yes," said Arthur. "Some factual information for you. Have you any idea how much damage that bulldozer would suffer if I just let it roll right over you?" "How much?" said Arthur. "None at all," said Mr. Prosser, and stormed nervously off, wondering why his brain was filled with 1,000 hairy horsemen all shouting at him. "Because you're crazy. Like my friend." Well, that's the end of this little section. I'm going to have to stop for now because I'm running out of time that YouTube will allow me. Well, once again, copy-paste all this stuff from the last video. I own nothing, other people own everything. Yeah. Ducks are evil, but squirrels have already taken over the world. I mean, think about it. When you're having a conversation with a friend and a squirrel walks by, who doesn't just stop and go, "Oh my God, a squirrel, a squirrel!" They've already taken us over, man. It's already happened. Anyway, have a good day. See ya.